What's up, baseball fans, and what's up, everybody? Last time I spoke to you yesterday around, around 5:30 or so, there was a couple of sign-ins, nothing crazy going on. But after the stream, it started to get very, very interesting with the botched fake news of Aaron Judge going to the Giants from John Heyman, or excuse me, Arson Judge, not Aaron Judge. And now we find out very early in the morning. I was still at work at the time, 8 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, and 5 o'clock in the morning, West Coast time. The Yankees have signed Aaron Judge to a 9-year, $360 million contract. He will be a Met for, a Yankee for most likely the remainder of his career. I know I'm cutting off a little bit. I apologize for that. That should be fixed in a second. So that is actually, and I said this yesterday. If you guys were following me yesterday, watching the stream yesterday, I said if the Yankees sign Aaron Judge and they get their guy, I was gonna go and give them credit the same way I gave credit to the Philadelphia Phillies getting the guy they wanted, which was Trey Turner. I cannot say anything bad about what the Yankees did. The way they went about it wasn't perfect, obviously. There was bigger offers on the table. According to the latest rumor about what went down was the fact that Judge flew to San Diego to speak to the Padres, and the San Diego Padres had the biggest offer of $400 million for 10 years. And on top of that, the Yankees offer that is now confirmed was only 8 years, 320. And clearly Judge went back to the Yankees and says if you can match what the Giants offered, he'll sign the deal. And that came down to nothing to do with Cashman, had to do everything with Hal Steinbrenner. So good for the Yankees for getting down to business and finally acting like the Yankees of old. The Yankees I remember, who never let a guy like that ever get on another team. And it's absolutely funny to think that, listen, put it this way, before we get into more details. Trey Turner and Aaron Judge, as some would say, obviously Aaron Judge the biggest player on the market, and Trey Turner, some can consider him one of the best shortstops on the market. Both took less money to go where they wanted to go, right? And it both involved the Padres. Trey Turner was getting a heck of a lot more of a deal, way over $300 million from the Padres. He declined that to go to the Phillies, taking 11 years, $300. The Padres offered Judge $400 for 10, and he took $40 million less and a year left off the contract to go back to the Yankees. So I can tell you who's not happy about this. Now, granted, of course the Giants are not happy about this. Of course not. But the problem is, well, not the problem for us, because if you're a fan of that team, you should be excited. There should be no doubt you'd be excited. But you know who's not happy? The Players Union, because they had two big free agents sign massive contracts, but left a ton of money on the table to go to the team they wanted to go to. Again, a fan of a team that had a player do that, like Philly fans are ecstatic that Trey Turner chose the Phillies and it was less money. The same thing with the Yankees with Judge. The union is not happy. And I can assure you, remember, we had this lockout based on reasons that were all about the situation with the money. The Players Association were talking about how owners were trying to keep the overall contracts down. And then players are now not taking less money to go where they want to go. And to me, personally, I love it. I think a player shouldn't be pressured by a union or anybody to take more money just because it's more money and it's not really where they want to go. Because at the end of the day, would it look right for the Judge to be a Padre, like it doesn't make sense. Now, the Giants made sense because that was his home team, everything like that. So that made sense. Trey Turner to the Padres. I don't know where the Padres are getting all this money from. Like, I don't know. They're digging oil up in that area. I don't know. But hey, listen. At the end of the day, I said this, and this is coming from a Met fan that respects the Yankees history, but don't like the Yankees. Why should I? But I said this with the Phillies, who is my arch rivals. They got their guy. They focused on one guy. They wanted Trey Turner, and they weren't going to let anybody get him. And they did that. And I gave them a ton of credit. It was the type of player they exactly needed, and they got it done. The same thing for the Yankees. Again, this doesn't make the Yankees a better team, right? Signing Judge brings back the same team that just lost to the Astros and struggled the second half of last year. That is the same Yankees team. Now, granted, there's a hell of a lot of offseason left. The winter meetings, still a day left, right? It's just getting started. And depending on it right now, if the Yankees stay status quo, I know they're looking at Rodon and they're looking at left field with Benintendi, and they're looking at relief pitching as well. Unless the Yankees, now, even if they get Carlos Rodon, it's kind of redundant when it comes to the rotation with the Yankees, right? They didn't pitch bad basically almost all year. They pitched pretty good, right? The problem was they could not hit in the postseason. And if you go back, not just this year, but the last couple of years, that's been the biggest problem, right? So if you add Judge to that, and even with Judge's great year, they still struggled offensively. Yes, they had a ton of injuries. But before they had Benintendi, before they got Frankie Montas, the first half of the year, those same guys that couldn't hit a lick in the second half and weren't in the that were in the postseason were the guys that were hitting in the first half. And LeMahieu didn't hit all year. So they are the same team even with Aaron Judge. It's just that Aaron Judge became a lot more expensive. And again, the Yankees are at that threshold now too, where they don't have that much money to spend unless they're gonna go over the first luxury tax threshold, which they've been under it, so it reset, so the penalty is not as high. But will they go over the second luxury tax to get another bat in that lineup? Or, somebody, if you want to get Benintendi and might possibly Rodon, well, what is that really doing? Is that going to make the Yankees better? Yeah, they'd probably be pretty damn good. That's for sure. But that was the same problem that they currently been having. Like, I think the Yankees need to go after a guy like Nimmo, a guy like Correa, a guy like Bogarts. I know Bogarts is in discussions now with the Red Sox when yesterday we thought the D-backs were the favorites. So there's a lot to look at with that. So with that said, we got all the signings yesterday. I'll go over them really quickly. Yesterday, Haney to Texas, Haniger to San Francisco, Walker to Philly, Tommy Kahnle to the Yankees, the reliever, Josh Bell to Cleveland, Jameson Taillon to the Cubs, and Cody Bellinger to the Cubs. So that was the signings of the day. Today, Aaron Judge signs back with the Yankees, taking less money than what the Padres offered to come back to the Yankees. And then not too long after that, Jose Quintana signs with the Mets. That's a deal that I don't think anybody talked about or even thought about that pitcher. And that's a good deal for the Mets. He had a really good year last year. He's a workhorse. He had pitched 32 games last year. He had a 3 ERA. He was very good for Pittsburgh, got traded to the Cardinals and was even better. And that's still that's a good sign in 2 years, $26 million. Pretty good deal. I think everybody understands what the Mets are doing here with these short-term deals with the pitchers. They're setting this up for 2024 and 2025 for a ton of money to come off the books around that time. And we know the two players that are coming up on free agency in the next 2 years. Number one is Ohtani. Number two is Juan Soto. Grant is here, and we just spoke about this on Facebook, and we are on agreement here. It's clear what the Mets are doing here. They're doing short-term deals for a decent amount of money on most players. And will they sign Senga? If they sign Senga, it's probably going to be a decent deal. But position player wise, if they bring back Nimmo or Benintendi, or go after a big trade, or go after one of the shortstops and put him at third base, something like that, that might be the biggest contract that they might give out. But pitching wise, it's just obvious what they're doing. And me and Grant talked about this. In about a year or two, within 2024 and 2025, the Mets are going to have a ton of money off the books, around probably $89 million, but it's probably going to go higher than that, around the $100 million, because at that same time, that's when Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil will be free agents. I don't think they're going to get to that point. I do think the fact that that the Mets are going to extend and buy out the last year or so, or 2 years of arbitration for McNeil and Alonso. So they'll probably get somewhat of a team friendly discount, not a lot, but if you come up with a nice offer for Pete Alonso, he'll probably sign it along with Jeff McNeil. So it's clear what the Mets are doing. They're focusing their payroll down the line for the next 2 years when Soto and Ohtani becomes free agent. First will be Ohtani. So that's something that I do like to see what they're doing. But again, you can't just worry about 2024 and 2025 if you're the New York Mets, when you still have 2023 to go through, especially when the Phillies got better. They got a pitcher in the middle of that rotation in Walker, right? They got a pretty good rotation now when it comes to Wheeler, Nola, Walker, and Suarez, and name their fifth starter. We'll see who that would be at some point, but we know their lineup is very damn good. We see what the Braves are. Possibly Soroka could be coming back in that rotation. Their rotation is pretty set. It looks like Elvis Andrews is a possibility for shortstop for the Braves. And if any Brave fan thought the Braves were going to go after any of these shortstops other than Swanson, you were mistaken, because they don't do that at all. They don't sign big-time free agents. They just don't do that for a lot of money. So Elvis Andrews was an option that I saw on Twitter earlier today while I was still at work, where they might go that type of route, like a veteran route at shortstop. Again, with the potent lineup they have, listen, it's going to hurt if they lose Swanson and don't replace him with a bat similar to Swanson. But Andrews is a good veteran, good defensively, doesn't have a great bat, but in that lineup, you just need somebody that can hold down shortstop, and they should be good to go. So in a division where the Phillies got better, the Braves are a really good team. They did win the division last year. Still, even if the Braves stay pat, and they say if they get Andrews, then maybe they'll get a bullpen arm or two, they are the two teams that are going to be, that already are really good. And the Mets at this point could lose both of their big free agents that were on their team, which was DeGrom and Nimmo. Again, they already replaced Verlander for DeGrom. So the rotation is not taking a humongous hit, considering the fact that Verlander pitched all of last year and DeGrom didn't. No matter what you think of DeGrom's stuff or anything like that, or what you predict him to do, the fact of the matter is the Mets replaced the guy who actually pitched last year for an entire year with a guy who pitched 11 games. And that's fine. And they signed Quintana, and they still look like they're one of the favorites to sign Senga. If they do that, their rotation is perfectly fine. And, they can go with Carrasco as their number 5, or they make Carrasco, McGill, and Peterson fight it out in spring training for the 5th spot. So there is no problem with the rotation at this point. But great, we can pitch, right? Wasn't this the same problem last year? 1, 2, 3, Scherzer, DeGrom, Bassett. But we still have problems hitting, and that's the biggest problem. And that's the problem that I think the Mets are running into right now, because where are the big bats in the free agent market, right? There's mostly all shortstops. Unless they're going to think about paying Correa and moving him to third base, every other sign indicates that if the Mets need a big bat, even if they bring back Nimmo, it seems like the Mets are on this trade route scenario to get that big bat. And yes, Robert, thank you for telling me that. I wrote it down and I missed it. That was on me. Yes, the Cardinals got their catcher for 5 years for Wilson Contreras. That's a huge signing for the Cardinals. They needed the catcher. There was some talk about the Cardinals talking to the Mets about James McCann. Obviously, they went the route with the guy who's actually better. And Wilson Contreras, he goes to the Cubs, to the Cardinals, and stays in that rivalry in the NL Central. And that's something that I do think that is a signing that probably takes the Cardinals out of another big time signing. If it's another pitcher or a bat, because according to yesterday, the Cubs and the Cardinals were in on Swanson. Now, that could still be a fact where the Cardinals still could be in on Swanson, but if the Cubs lose out on Swanson and he goes to the Cardinals, then the Cubs are probably going to be all over Correa. I think that's probably the situation that could happen. So that's where we are right now. So once again, guys, today's signings right now, Judge goes back to the Yankees. Jose Quintana signs a 2-year deal with the Mets. Kenley Jansen signs a 2-year deal with the Boston Red Sox. And Wilson Contreras signs a 5-year deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. So there's been more movement today early on in the last day of the winter meetings. And I think a lot of people expected that. As soon as Judge signs, I mean, there was boom, 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 moves all over the place. So here we go. So there's another sign in. Let's see. What's going on here? What do we got? Aldamis Diaz and the A's are in agreement pending a physical on a 2-year deal worth $14 million. The A's are making moves. Okay. All right. Look at the A's trying to get something going here. Tilly, the problem with the Reynolds situation is this. Is Reynolds a centerpiece for the Mets that could work very well? Absolutely. They don't have to pay big money to Brandon Nimmo to play center field. Reynolds has more power than Nimmo. I like Reynolds. I think he's a good player. But the problem is the team control. Because, yeah, I wouldn't mind giving up Beatty, but here's the problem you're going to run into. It's not going to be just Beatty. Pittsburgh's going to want a haul back. And, yes, you got team control over him. Yes, he will help this lineup. But, they also have Ke'Bryan Hayes at third base as well. So, I don't think they'd be looking for Reynolds. They might be asking for either Alvarez or Parada. And I don't know if the Mets are going to give up either of them. So now you're talking about Mauricio, probably one of the pitchers for the small amount of prospect pitchers the Mets have in their top 10. Maybe a Ziegler or a Tidwell. So if you're willing to give Mauricio and Tidwell up and maybe another top 15 prospect, maybe you can get it done. But again, there's going to be competition for Reynolds. So if the Mets don't have the best deal that Pittsburgh's looking for, the Mets are going to be out rather quickly. So, granted, Beatty's played left field a lot in the minor leagues, so they can look at him in left field as well. Sometimes, Pittsburgh's the type of team that probably have to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. So, again, if they it all comes down to, it's not what we see. Okay, well, they have Ke'Bryan Hayes and O'Neal Cruz at the left side of the infield. But what if the Pirates really like Brett Beatty and they really like Kevin Parada? And they like Kevin Parada more than they wouldn't want a Mauricio because of the fact that they got O'Neal Cruz. So they might like Beatty and put him in left field, and they might really like Kevin Parada, who can probably come up. I think that he's already MLB ready, Kevin Parada, because he came out of college. He's already a better defensive catcher than Alvarez, and they think he can hit for power, not much power, but they see him as a 17 to 20 home run guy and a guy who's going to be hitting for average. So that's a guy where the Pirates, who is looking for cheap, controllable players that they can put on the roster, that might be something they're looking at too. Again, the Mets are not going to be the only team on Reynolds. That's where the Mets are going to probably fall a little bit short. That's the reason why the Mets, and I said this before the offseason started, that because the Mets have so many free agents in the bullpen, in the starting pitching, and also Nimmo, they had to sign a ton of free agents to fill the rotation, to fill the bullpen, and fill the holes that they might have with Nimmo and possibly going out there to get another big bat, right? That's the whole problem with the Mets at the moment, because if they don't have the prospect haul, like I said, it does come down to the team they're trading with, what they like. Again, the Mets might be traded with a team that already has a catcher and don't want Alvarez. They might need a shortstop and they like Mauricio, but they might like one of our pitches in Ziegler and Tidwell. And then, the Mets are very, very bare in the higher levels of the minors with pitching prospects. That's been a big problem. And I don't think they're going to want to part ways with either Ziegler or Tidwell, because that's their last two arms that they feel can come up in 2024 and definitely 2025, especially Ziegler and maybe even Tidwell for that matter. But, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, what about Matt Allen? Well, this guy has not been healthy, so you can't count on that. If he ever gets healthy, we all know he has the stuff, but if he's not healthy, what are you going to do with that? So, with that said, all right, Andy Martino has just tweeted, topics to watch in New York right now: Rodon for Yankees, Senga to Mets. Both teams have strong interest in those respective players, but not sure when they'll be ready to sign. So that's something that we can watch out for. Alrighty. And just to give you a quick update, guys, by about 2:30 or so, I just got to spend like 5 minutes just to get the car out of the driveway to make room for another car. So that's something that I got to do in the 2 hours. So we're not there yet. So I just want to let you know, I'll put on like MLB Network Radio or something, and you guys can listen to that for a bit until I come back. I'm just looking at Twitter right now. So no shock that the Mets are still involved with Senga. Again, I think everybody who saw that Quintana deal with the Mets probably had a feeling that the Mets might have been out on Senga, but that thought has been shot down rather quickly. And the same thing with the Yankees. Like I said, Yankees lost Tyone. Again, obviously Rodon is a heck of a lot better than Tyone, so it'll only bolster the Yankees rotation as well. But we just talked about the Yankees and what they still need. They can't get Rodon and bring back Judge and maybe bring back Benintendi and expect them to be a totally different team. They're not that much better than what they were last year. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Stoney, the Mets are interested in Reynolds, but I was just talking about the fact that unless the Mets have the prospects that the Pirates are looking for, then it's going to be hard for the Mets to outbid another team that might be looking for Reynolds that might have better prospects. The Pirates might just want the best prospects that they can get, or they want specific prospects that they are looking at for a certain team. That's something that we have to look at. Yeah, Mike. Again, I don't think they're gonna cut. I'm telling you right now, Cashman is not cutting Donaldson. All right, that's a lot of money to cut and not have that body there. They're not gonna trade him unless they're gonna trade Donaldson and give up a big prospect in that type of situation, because you're not going to ask a team to take Donaldson, who was completely washed, and have them pay the salary and not give them a top prospect. Other than that, Donaldson's going to be a third baseman. I don't think they're going to sign Correa at this point. The Judge contract probably took you out of that, to be honest with you. Yeah, the Rule 5 draft, I believe it is this afternoon. Mike, I'm never biased. Let's see. No, Volpe has. Let's see. Yankees need to trade Donaldson, trade Torres, and Peraza. I'm telling you this right now. The Yankees are not trading Peraza. Peraza is going to be your shortstop on opening day. So that's I think Peraza is going to be a shortstop. I wouldn't be surprised that the Yankees will sign Benintendi and Rodon, and that's it. And again, I don't think that's going to make anybody excited because of the fact that, maybe they'll trade Torres. Maybe you can get something for Torres. I mean, I think he's very valuable. Still got some value in regards to other teams looking at him because he's so young. But how much are you going to get back from him? Can you get a reliever? Can you get, a team that gets Torres is a team that's probably going to be in that contender type of mode, win now or win in the next year or so. So they're not going to trade you. You're going to get prospects for them. And yeah, that might sound good, but the Yankees are not looking for prospects because how is that helping their team? Now, would that make room for DJ LeMahieu at second base? That's a possibility. So that's something that you would have to look at as well. But I see the Yankees going after Rodon, obviously, and I think they're going to sign Benintendi. So if they get Rodon and they get Benintendi, again, the lineup is not – again, the Yankees' biggest struggles were when after the deadline. That's when it really started to get bad. And that was with Benintendi, with Judge. Yes, LeMahieu wasn't there, but LeMahieu wasn't good in the first half either. So even if you get rid of Torres and LeMahieu is the fill-in at second base, well, how much better is that lineup? Stanton, you can guarantee is going to miss about 30 games. He's a guy that you can't trust. Judge is Judge. There's no problem there. Center field, I like Hader. You got him for a full year now. He's not a great offensive player, but he's a decent offensive player. So that's this situation. Trevino is Trevino in catcher. Third base, with Donaldson, it's like I don't see him not being a part of this team unless they give up a prospect, a really good prospect, to have somebody take Donaldson. And the only teams that are going to take Donaldson and the rest of his money is a team that can afford that money and probably in a win now situation. So I don't see the Pirates or the Rays or a middle of the road team taking on that money and just to get a prospect. I don't see that. You might see that with some teams, but they also got to afford that as well. And it's basically dead money at this point. You got to give a ton of credit to the Yankees, but let's not go crazy with the Yankees. And this is not a Mets fan being biased. Let's be honest. Aaron Judge had bigger offers. He came back to the Yankees on a cheaper deal. So let's not act like, and I said this, the Yankees were never going to have the biggest offer. And I said this, right? You guys heard me for all day yesterday. The only way Judge is going to come back is if he actually wants to stay with the Yankees on a cheaper deal. That's exactly what he did, right? The Yankees never had the highest offer. The last offer they had was 8 years, $320 before Hal spoke to Aaron Judge. And all indications were it was pretty much a done deal that Judge was probably going to take the Padres offer, considering the fact that it was the biggest offer. So Judge, yes, wanted to be a Yankee, but they also had to go up $40 million from where the Giants were. So that's something that Yankee fans have to realize they never gave the biggest offer. They made a let's just ditch effort, but Judge did come back to them, unlike DeGrom didn't come back to the Mets, right? Remember, the Yankees never had an idea, never had an answer of if Judge would come back to them for a last minute counter offer. But again, Judge seemed like he always wanted to be a Yankee, but he wasn't going to get lowballed by a Yankees offer. And the Yankees almost lost him by playing a stupid game. And I think they got extremely lucky, because this wasn't something where they saw the Giants deal offer and the Padres offer, and they came out and blow Judge out of the water with an offer. They did it. They gave the exact same offer that the Giants had when the Padres had a $400 million deal for 10. So, we'll see if the Yankees can get better. Rodon is going to make the rotation better, but again, the Yankees pitching wasn't the problem in the playoffs. It was the hitting. Andre, yeah, I mean, they did sign Haniger, so there's a possibility that Nimmo could be an option for them. We'll see. But I think the Giants are going to be in on Correa big time. Ramon, I think we are going to be signing another starter. I mean, I know the Rangers got prospects, but we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen, but again, there's a lot of free agents on the board still that can still impact a lot of teams. I don't think you're going to see major trades yet until some of these guys get off the board. Like when the outfield market is basically bare, now you're going to hear the trade rumors with Reynolds, right? Nimmo is still there. Andrew Benintendi's still there, right? You still got two outfielders that the teams that could be in on Reynolds are talking to now. So once at least Nimmo gets off the board, now you're going to hear trade rumors more and more about Reynolds, because there is no other center fielder on the market worth actually paying and actually think that are good. So Reynolds is going to be the center of attention. When Benintendi gets off the board, now you're going to start thinking about other trades that you can look around the league for outfielders. And same thing with the shortstops and every other person. The teams that lose out on all the shortstops and need either a third baseman or a shortstop might be looking at, wow, the Red Sox are trying to sign. They're close to signing Xander Bogaerts. Well, does that mean they're putting their money in Bogaerts and they're not going to re-sign Devers? Now you can be looking at that as well. So there's so many options that you have to look at. But until the outfield market is bare, I don't think any rumors happen when it comes to Reynolds. So Twitter's happening. Let's see what's going on. All right, so the Wilson Contreras deal is out. 5 years, $87.5 million. Pretty damn good deal for Wilson Contreras to the Cardinals. Sorry, guys. I'm just doing something. So $17.5 million a year. Well, Mike, I agree with you with that. Oh, yeah, Hater. Sorry. That's right, Joe. Hater. I don't know why I keep on saying Bader for some reason. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, they had injuries, but before they had the injuries, offensively, they could not hit a lick, and that was with Benintendi. And yeah, LeMahieu was out, but LeMahieu didn't hit the entire year. The Yankees were winning despite LeMahieu because Torres was actually hitting the first half. Trevino was actually hitting the first half. Stanton was actually hitting the first half. And you can go on and on about Rizzo was hitting in the first half. In the second half, before Benintendi got hurt, the offense was struggling badly. And yes, a lot of your relief arms started to go down, which hurt the Yankees for sure. But let's not make it seem like they were completely out of the whole, like their whole team was hurt. Yet the same players that Yankee fans were complaining the Yankees got in the offseason were the ones that were contributing a lot, were playing well over the back of the baseball card. And you can't expect that again. Like Trevino, he hit well over what his stats said in his career. You can't expect that again. The same thing that goes for other players as well, right? Hader is a guy that Bader, excuse me. Bader is a guy that in his career is not a great offensive player. He is a wizard in center field. But yeah, I know he hit home runs in the playoffs, but that's an anomaly. All right. That he's not a home run hitter. You know, can he hit 270, 280? Absolutely. So he's going to help the top part of that lineup. But everybody should expect Judge to have a season not like last year. So on average, you can probably see Judge hitting 45 home runs. Well, that's 17 home runs less than what he hit last year. Can he hit 320 again? Yeah, probably. But even if he drops down a tick and drops down to 305, 310, well, that's a couple of hits here and there that might not be on the board that was there last year. And of course, with less home runs, average dropping, the RBIs are probably going to drop as well. So where are they getting that other production from? And that's something that Rodon is nice for the rotation, but if you're going to run into the same problem when you face good pitching and you're basically a team that strikes out a lot and counts on big-time home runs in situations, and you don't get those big home runs, then you're running into the same problem again. That's why I do like Benintendi to come back to the Yankees, a little bit more of a contact hitter, 300 hitter. And Bader is that guy as well. As a contact guy, doesn't strike out a ton. That's good. You know, Correa, yeah, that probably makes the most sense, but you do have two shortstops that Cashman is basically hugging with his dear life in Peraza and Volpe. So I doubt you go in a shortstop, Rob. I do believe that IKF might be one of those guys where they might throw him on third base, throw Donaldson on the bench, and use Peraza as a shortstop and let Volpe develop a little bit more in the minors. Fish, I do think Correa is going to the Cubs, but don't count out the Giants. Don't count out the Giants. All right, guys, I'm just going through the comments right now. I know I'm pretty behind on that. All right. Oh, that's interesting. So Sarah Langs tweeted that Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, and Jose Quintana each started game one of his respected team's playoffs run last season. The Mets will be the first team to have three pitchers pitch for them in a year who each started his team's first game of the postseason run. That's pretty cool. I mean, again, that means absolutely nothing in the future, but that's kind of cool considering the fact that those guys are a part of that situation there. So that's kind of cool. Joe, the Phillies already signed Walker to that deal. He already signed to that. Again, Tyrone Walker's a good pitcher, right? I don't think some Met fans might think that he's, he had the first year that we had him, he broke down in the second half, but he hasn't pitched for 2 years at that moment. So he broke down. He pitched very well this year, but I went back and checked because he got a similar number than what Jameson Taillon got. And if you just look at the names and you say, oh, how can Jameson Taillon get nearly the same amount of money as Walker did? Well, look at the numbers. Their ERA is basically exactly the same. Wins, I don't care about. Wins are pointless. The whip was similar. And the ERA was very similar. I think Walker had a little bit lower of an ERA. But this is where I got the problem with Walker. For the Phillies, I thought he would have been good for the Mets. The problem with Walker, and it was his problem with the Mets for 2 years, when he doesn't have it, he gives up a ton of home runs. And He was always prone to give up home runs, even when he was pitching well. Like there was many times this year he was pitching scoreless 6 innings and then give up a home run in 6 2/3 and give up a big home run. But Walker, I think, would have been is better suited as a Met than he is a Philly, because we all know Philly is a bandbox. Pop-ups go out of that ballpark. Walker gives up a ton of home runs. So as much as I like Walker, I don't like him in the situation with the Phillies just based on what I said. Again, he's got great stuff. When he's on, he's very hard to hit. But even when he's on, he is prone to give up the long ball. And in a park where if you just watch Taijuan Walker last year, where I think he pitched very much better the entire year, but there was so many times where there was a lot of one-in-track power that didn't go out at Citi Field, but would be 5 to 10 rows deep at Citizens Bank in right and left field. So that's something that you have to look at with Taijuan Walker, and not saying it's a bad signing for the Phillies, but he's going to give up a hell of a lot more home runs at Citizens Bank than he did at Citi Field, just because he is prone to the home run ball. Why I think he would have been a better match or suited for the Mets than in that ballpark at Citizens Bank. No, Stoney. I mean, the way it's looking now, a lot of people are thinking that Senga is getting well over $20 million. He's probably going to get about $25 million for 5 or 6 years. So do the math. If he's going to get about $20 million, a little bit more than that for 5 or 6 years, it's $100 million to $120 million. And there's still reports that the Mets and the Padres are still very much the favorites. I think I seen some that the Mets did offer him a 6-year deal, but he's still weighing I think this is the next guy coming off the board. I think he's going to go off the board before Rodon goes off the board. But we'll see. Give me a second, guys. Hold on. What is going on here? Something going on? No. Okay. Sorry. I thought something popped up. Andre, I don't think Senga is not. I think he's going to sign today sometime. I don't think he's going to wait till after the winter meetings, because of the fact that if I read you the tweet yesterday that him and his agent flew to 6 or 7 cities around the country to see how he felt in those countries, like being comfortable and everything like that. He did say, his agent, that Senga wants to be on the win now team. Padres, win now team. Mets, win now team. Whoever else is in on him, I'm assuming is either in a win now mode or a little bit on the brink. Well, Justin, 9 years, 360 wasn't the highest number. The whole point was, but see, I'm more right than you were, because I said Judge was going to take less money to go to the Yankees, and he did. He said no to the $100 million for 10 years from the San Diego Padres. So he took less money to go back to the Yankees. So the Yankees never outbidded anybody. So Mike, did you really, before you commented on that, made that comment, did you see how he pitched last year? He pitched more than Verlander. He pitched more than DeGrom and more than Scherzer, and had a 3 ERA overall last year. And when he got traded to the Cardinals, he was lights out for the Cardinals when he got traded for him, and also pitched very good against the Phillies in 5 1/3 against the Phillies. He actually had a really good year last year. He had a better year than Walker, better year than Bassett. Bassett had a 3.5 ERA when Quintana had a 3 ERA. He pitched very well. And according to all the reports, Quintana has nothing to do with Senga. And oh, by the way, they got the same agent. So the agent is not going to let one of their other clients sign with a team that was very focused on Senga. So that can either be a very good sign. I don't see how it can't be a good sign. because if they got the same agent, then you would think that the agent knows that the Mets are still involved, because signing Quintana to a lower deal and getting one of the one of the favorites to land Senga out of the mix doesn't make sense if he's an agent of both players. That wouldn't make sense. So that's something you have to look at. Quintana was very good last year, and he was better than probably the majority of the pitchers that were in the tier of level that he was. He was better than Walker. He was better than Bassett. And ERA-wise, he pitched more games than Verlander, Scherzer, and that's a big deal, especially with the Mets, who need a pitcher that goes deep into games, that pitches every fifth day. You know, Bassett might have struggled at the end of the career, but he was there every fifth day. He pitched a lot, over 100 pitches, a lot of times pitched into the seventh inning. You need a guy like that in your rotation, because you are not going to just throw Max Scherzer and Verlander 6-7 innings every single time they go out. You need the back end of your rotation to give you innings to protect your bigger arms. Dependent, yeah, BX. If the Mets get Sanger. If they get Sanger, it's obvious that Sanger is going to be the number 3. Quintana is going to be a number 4, and then you got Carrasco, McGill, and Peterson to fight out for that 5th spot. But then again, that leaves maybe Peterson or McGill possibly used in a package with prospects to maybe get the big bet the Mets might be looking for in the trade spot. Let's see. Yeah, well, Mike, he was bad the year before that because he got hurt. He came back injured. But when he was healthy last year, and for the majority of his career, he's been healthy. In 2021, he was hurt. So, you know, this guy in his career, I looked at his stats once the Mets signed him. When I first saw Joe, he was the one that tweeted me, and I'm like, well, that's a weird signing. Like, I actually, from my own thought process, was like, I never really heard him much pitch last year. And then I looked at his stats, and I'm like, wow, I was pleasantly surprised how good he actually pitched. I'll go over it right now with you guys really quick. I checked what he did last year because I care about what he did last year. You know, I'm not focused what he did 5 years ago, but I care about what he did at least in the last 2 years. Again, excuse me, I even make him as good as he was. Now, he was with the Pirates most for the first half, so the wins and losses means nothing to me. He had a 3.5 WAR with a 2.93 ERA. All right, he's 33 years old, which is not that bad. That's pretty damn good. I mean, in his career, you know, in 2021 he was bad. It's hard to say anything about that, but he was with Chicago. He was with the Angels. He got injured during that time as well. But I like the fact that in the National League, which is a tough National League, he pitched extremely well and then pitched well for the St. Louis Cardinals in a race down the stretch where they were trying to make the playoffs and win a division. And the Cardinals were one of the best teams other than the Braves winning that NL Central. So that's a big deal as well. Again, Andy Martino just tweeted again. Senga and Quintana have the same agency. Wasserman would make no sense for them to take a top team out of Senga. That is their other client. That's what I just said. That was the tweet that I was telling you guys earlier about. So that's something that you can look at as well. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit on that like button. I'll be with you until probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Once again, you know, same thing as last time. Again, I stayed a little bit beyond yesterday after the news came out about possibly Judge going to the Giants, and it seemed like until, you know, Arson Judge made a decision, not Aaron Judge. So once again at 2:30, I do gotta go downstairs really quick, move the car just to make space for another car, and then I come back here. It's only 5-10 minutes, not much more than that. Around 2:30, probably a little after that. I'll see. It depends on when that person texts me. All right, so there we go. Let's see what else we got. Well, yeah, BX, that's a great deal. Like I said, $13 million is a bargain for a middle rotation arm, right? Look what Haney got. Look what Jameson Taillon got, was basically the number 4 in the Yankees rotation. Like, even Walker, you can see him as a number 3, but he's probably better off as a number 4. But I can see him as a number 3. He got $72 million. So, like, for Quintana, that's a bargain. $13 million a year, not bad at all, considering what the pitching market is going to. All right, let's see. Well, Mike, I said the same thing. They got to address the lineup. And no, Nimmo nor Benintendi is enough. No matter if they get one of them, whichever one it is, it's not enough. I put Nimmo and Benintendi in the same category offensively because if you look at the numbers, it's very, very similar. You can pick to fit your own narrative. If you love Nimmo, you can find stats that have Nimmo better than Benintendi. If you want to fit the narrative that Benintendi's better, you can find stats that are better than Nimmo. I think when you look at them offensively and what they do well, they kind of level off as not much of a difference offensively, depending on what you're looking for for a team. The only difference is Benintendi is going to be a lot cheaper than Brandon Nimmo, and Benintendi is younger than Brandon Nimmo, not by a lot, but he is. So that's something that we have to look for the Yankees and the Mets, because clearly the Yankees are probably going to try to keep Benintendi, but also Nimmo is an option for many teams as well, including the Mets. The Pirates, I don't know if they did anything, to be honest with you, Steven. Yes, Justin, they are, with the Quintana signing, they are over the Steve Cohen tax threshold, the biggest penalty. That means their draft pick drops down 10 spots and they lose international money. Now, there is now, and I think the max penalty is like $32 million of a penalty. But Steve Cohen already said, now remember, it doesn't matter how much you go over that Steve Cohen tax, the third threshold. As soon as you go over it $1 million, the penalty doesn't get stronger. So no matter if you're going over $1 million or $100 million, you're paying the same penalty. So the 10 spots in your draft go drop down 10 spots and you lose international money and you pay the fine. I think it's between $32 and $34 million for that penalty. So if the Mets already did that and went over that luxury tax threshold, the new Steve Cohen threshold, then there is no other penalty for going over it drastically. And if you already did that with basically all starting pitching, then the Mets are clearly not done. Because even if they bring back Nimmo and obviously need bullpen help, they're going to be way over that. So once again, there is no bigger penalty for going over more than $1 million. So once you're over that third threshold, the penalty is already set in stone. Drop 10 spots in the draft, lose international money, and pay a big fine, which is between $32 and $34 million. So with that said, now that the Mets are over that threshold, there is nothing to stop Steve Cohen for going ape shit crazy. Not saying that he will, but if he does, nobody should be surprised. Because I don't know if you guys remember this, but last year when media asked him, when the reporter asked him, would you be willing to go over to quote unquote Steve Cohen tax? He says yes. And then the reporter says, well, if you go over $1 million to that third threshold, would you go beyond that? He said, if I'm going to go over that threshold, it's not going to just be $1 million. Right? So it's obvious. The penalty is the penalty. That's set in stone. Whatever the penalty is for going over that Steve Cohen penalty, that tax, luxury tax, the tax threshold, then there's no reason for him to stop spending until he feels like he's satisfied with the team. All right, guys. So I'm just checking Twitter really quick. Yeah, Joe. True. What? Watch that be a case. Well, Mike. Again, Bassett really scared me off. One, his comments right before Game 3 of the wild card, where he says he had a hard time with the pressure of New York on a constant basis, and the two big and when he said that, and he already had the debacle in Atlanta the last week of the season, and then say that comment before Game 3, and then pitch terribly in Game 3, tells me that this guy isn't prime time. During the season, maybe he didn't feel the pressure of all eyes on him, but when it came down to the two biggest starts of the Mets season was in Atlanta and the wild card game where it was win or go home. Bassett completely fell apart, and with his comments scares the hell out of me. Now, Quintana, on the other hand, has been bouncing around a lot, right? He bounced around to Pittsburgh, then he went to St. Louis, right dead into a division race, right into a playoff run with the Cardinals. And, he's a guy that was nasty for many years back in the day, and he's still going strong. He had a really good year last year, and I cannot say that Quintana is going to be better than Bassett, but there's not a strong argument to say that Bassett's going to be better either. Just because we've seen, if you just go by stats, Quintana pitched better than Bassett last year. Bassett and Quintana pitched almost the same amount of games, but Quintana was considerably better ERA wise than Bassett. And again, Bassett in the biggest spots for the Mets completely fell apart. I don't know, Jason. I haven't heard anything with the Angels with Senga. I've heard a lot of Padres because of Yu Darvish, but other than that, I haven't heard that. And again, it's kind of weird that Senga hasn't made a decision yet. He has the offers. He's been to the cities of the teams that he knows are going to give him the offers that he's looking for. And the Mets are one of the teams that gave him one of the amount of years he was looking for, along with the Padres. Again, there has been no reports that the Mets and the Padres aren't the two favorites. And there doesn't seem like there's another team that are on the level of the Mets and the Padres as the favorites for Senga. Polar Bear Pete's birthday today. Yeah, well, Justin, this is not just for Steve Cohen. It's any team. And I think I already said it. Maybe this was a comment that I missed, and I'm assuming I explained it now. Well, Cameron, that's fine if the Yankees are the best team in New York. But at the same time, you don't get a trip down the Canyon of Heroes for being the best team in New York. Right? You got to win the World Series. And again, you still did not overpay. You didn't have the biggest contract offer to Aaron Judge. If Aaron Judge did not want to be a Yankee, he would have took the Giants offer, which was the same as the Yankees, or took the Padres offer. Again, let's not act like the Yankees didn't get lucky here, guys. Like let's cool down. Like the Yankees actually, they put themselves in a spot where they had to overspend for Aaron Judge. They didn't have to do that. If they would have came with an actual normal and legit offer before the season, they would have probably had him and not have to worry this. They spent $140 million more because they screwed up the whole Aaron Judge situation, because I think they were so cocky that nobody was going to really go crazy after Aaron Judge for the most part, that they didn't think that the money was going to get that high in free agency. And at that point, they didn't have a choice. Hug, I don't know if the Cubs are going to get Senga. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs find a way to get Rodon somehow. I mean, you just signed Tyone, so I don't know. That's I didn't say that's a good signing. I mean, Tyone's a decent pitcher, but he's not something that you could be excited about. Well, I think that's a good point, Rocky, and that's the whole thing. Justin, let me just go back to that. I don't know if you wrote that comment after or before or you didn't hear it, but again, with the Steve Cohen tax thing that they put together during the lockout as the third member, because there was only 2 luxury tax thresholds, right? Because Steve Cohen became the owner, owners were so concerned about Steve Cohen spending, which is hilarious to me because the teams that are spending tons of money, it seems like no owner gives a damn, right? About those teams, but they care about Steve Cohen, right? The Phillies can sign Harper, sign Schwarber, sign Castellanos, and now sign Turner as well, and nobody bats an eye. The same thing with the Padres, but the owners don't care about that, but they worry about Steve Cohen. You see how stupid that sounds? Well, with this third new threshold, the Steve Cohen tax, what that is that you pay 90% on the dollar after you spend whatever amount of money, right? But with the third threshold, I forgot the number. I think it's like 290 something or something like that. You pay 90% on that dollar of that much money. So it's around $32 to $34 million. That's a known fact. Cohen knows if he goes over it, that's the amount of money he has to spend. Baseball wise, not financial wise, but baseball wise, the Mets drop down 10 spots in the draft and lose international signing bonus money. So that's where that is. Not just for the Mets. That goes for any team that goes over the third threshold, which maybe be 1 or 2 teams. Maybe. But at the moment, with this Quintana signing, they are over that threshold. So Cohen's got to pay that $30+ million penalty. The Mets drop down 10 spots in the draft and lose international money, bonus money. At that point, after you're over it, there's no extra penalty for how much you go over. So at this point, everything the Mets do is gravy at this point because of the fact that they're not getting penalized for going extremely over that now. And that goes for other teams as well. You know what? I think Bassett's a good spot for the Cubs, in my opinion. I think that would be good, but watch out for the Orioles with Bassett. Yeah, Ethan, the Yankees are over the first threshold, barely. Devers or Reynolds, again, both of them are very intriguing, but it depends on what the Mets do in free agency. Hayden, what's up, buddy? How you doing, buddy? The Mets are in on Benintendi as well. I think that's going to be plan B if they don't re-sign Nimmo. All right, guys. Let's see what else is going on in the Twitter world. All right. Now it gets kind of quiet. I'm just looking at something, guys, just to make sure that we're not missing anything here. At the moment, just make sure you hit on that like button, guys. Let's get this likes over around 150 today. Let's see if we can get that done. And if you're a new subscriber, say what's up in the chat. Don't be shy. Let me know what team you're a fan of. Even if you're not a Mets fan, again, we're going all around the league right now. Whatever news comes out, we're talking about it. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, got a little bit of excuse me. It's like lunchtime now. And it's what is it, like 11, 12? It's like 10:30 there. It's getting closer and closer to lunchtime for the meetings in California. Like yesterday, it seemed like between like 12 and 3, there wasn't much going on at all. And then right around like 4 o'clock, 4:30, when it seemed like they came back from lunch around 1:30, 2 o'clock over there. That's when the news started coming out about Judge and all that stuff with Tyone and Walker and all that. All right. God. You know, when you keep on saying the same thing in the comments, you're not funny. You're just an idiot. like you're a Yankees fan. That's okay. You're allowed to root for your team, but stop saying the same comments. Like you're not impressing anybody. Home slice. I knew I saw your comments. Rob, I think I said that already about. Yeah, I think the price is fine for Quintana. I mean, that's considering what these pitchers are getting, it's a deal. Considering how well he was last year. Hog, I appreciate that, buddy. I'm glad I can, get you through your workday as best as I can. No problem, Justin. Hog, I don't know about Correa, so I don't know. Like, it's weird what the Cubs are doing. Like, last year they got Stroman, which again, I don't really like Stroman as a pitcher. I think that he had a career year in a contract year, and you saw what he did last year. He wasn't very good. Tyone, I don't know what can you expect from him. He's got really good stuff, but he had a 4 ERA last year, so I don't know what you can expect from him. Correa or Swanson? I think Swanson. Well, Swanson's been rumored to be one of the teams that are going after, and according to I think it was Joel Sherman yesterday, saying that the Cubs and the Cardinals seem like they're going to be one of the teams that get Swanson. I'm assuming if the Cubs lose out on Swanson, then they're going to be all in on Correa. Ramon, plan B if we don't get Senga, probably Chris Bassett. Because if the Mets are willing to go 5 or 6 years of $100 or $120 million for Senga, why wouldn't they go for 4 for 80 or 4 for 85 for Bassett, who they know is a good pitcher? I don't know. I don't see why they wouldn't make that a plan B. Fire blazing, Senga, Chafin, and Nimmo. Yeah, that's nice and all, but again, great. Rotation looks nice. You're helping your bullpen a little bit. But guess what you're not doing? You're bringing back the same lineup with Nimmo. And you basically did nothing else with the lineup. You can't bring back the same lineup and expect different results offensively. Because then you have to expect you now you need Alonso to do what he did last year. You need a Lindor to have another year like he had last year with 25 home runs. You need somebody else to play over the back of their baseball card, power-wise. And if you don't get that, you're getting to basically the same team. Yes, the Mets had they were scoring around 4 runs per game, a little over 4 runs a game for most of the year, except for August and September. But the games they lost, the games that when the lineup was cold, and you got a lot of hitters that are gap-to-gap hitters, singles hitters that are not home run hitters, that's a problem. And that's where we had a big problem with the power. And that's where I find where people continue to pound the desk and the wall about Nimmo. Nimmo is not the issue as a player. You bring back Nimmo, perfect. But what else? The same thing if you bring Brendan Tendy instead of Nimmo. What else are you doing power-wise? Some people were talking about JD Martinez. Again, he was terrible in the second half. Maybe getting out of Boston might help him a little bit, but he's not necessarily a power hitter anymore. He hit 30 doubles last year. That's something. Look, you need a guy to drive in runs. Right? The Mets had a ton of people on base last year. They were able to get Marte, Nimmo, McNeil, Canna. These guys were able to get on base, but we couldn't drive them in. If we couldn't rack 2 or 3 hits together, we weren't scoring. We need a guy that we know is a run producer. JD Martinez is a run producer. We know Nimmo is a really good player offensively. I really like Nimmo offensively, but here's the problem. You can't bring back Nimmo and tell me this lineup is better because it's the same lineup as last year. Where are we getting that extra run producer, right? We had two guys over 100 RBIs. Was Lindor and Alonso. You need another guy that could be in the 85 to 90 range. A third guy to drive runners in. The Phillies have that. The Braves have that. These are the teams you got to be facing against. You know, if pitching is going to struggle at some point during the season, you need to fight it out with runs against these teams as well. You know, there's going to be a lot of times where these teams are going to be mashing. You have to stick with them. You can't always expect your rotation that, yes, might be very good to shut them down every single time. That's too much pressure on the pitching staff. And I think the Mets, at a fault, relied so much on their pitching staff and neglected the lineup. And that's where the Mets had so much of a huge problem. And that's what I'm worried about with the Mets. Again, when I had arguments about not going that amount of money for Nimmo, I don't care what the Mets give Nimmo. If the Mets believe that Nimmo is worth 6 years, $150 million, then that's on the Mets. That's not on me. Like, I don't care about that. But if that prevents you from getting another bat that we need in this lineup, even with Nimmo, then the signing isn't very smart. Now, that's why I started talking about Benintendi, because if there's all indications that Benintendi is going to be a lot cheaper than Brandon Nimmo, like between 30, 40, possibly even $50 million cheaper. If that's the case, if the Mets have to sign Benintendi to have payroll flexibility to get a bat that they need in the lineup, then I'd rather go that route. But if Nimmo's going to prevent the Mets from getting another bat, that Nimmo signing doesn't do enough. And you're signing Nimmo well above value for the player that he is. And all you're doing is neglecting your lineup once again in 2023. And then what? Wait to the trade deadline and pray the first half works out like it did last year? Because there's no guarantee of that. See, I still think the Mets are in on the pitching. I think after the Mets get the last pitcher they're looking at, either it's going to be Senga or Bassett or another guy that might be thinking of, because nobody was talking about Jose Quintana. I didn't even know he was a free agent, to be honest with you. So that's something that I think we have to do. As soon as the Mets get another pitcher, then we will know where the Mets are at. Are the Mets focused on trades with a big bat, or the Mets are focused on another free agent bat? And we know the free agent bats that are out there. And the only bats that I think that can be warranted to help this lineup where it's needed is one of the shortstops. And the only one I can think of is Correa, because you can move him to third base. Is that logic? Is that possible? I mean, yeah, anything's possible, but will they do that? And that's where I'm worried. Blue Jays. Well, I know the Blue Jays have been in on Nimmo since like day one. Why they haven't been more aggressive with him, or we haven't heard that yet, but Judge is off the table now. So you're going to hear rumors now about Nimmo and Benintendi a lot more. We know the Blue Jays want to move Springer out of center field to keep him as healthy as possible. They want to move him to a corner outfielder. So obviously Nimmo makes a lot of sense for the Blue Jays. But Kiermaier is also a possibility for the Blue Jays, right? Because the Blue Jays offense is a juggernaut, right? They can match with the best of them. So do they really need extra offense? Like, Nimmo's not going to provide the power, but he'll get on base for you guys. Yeah, that's fine. But why not use the payroll flexibility you have to really bolster that bullpen with the rotation that is very good? Bolster that bullpen. If I'm the Blue Jays, I sign Kiermaier, and then I don't have to worry about the defense in the outfield, because Springer's already a really good center fielder, but to keep him healthy, you want to move him to the corners. So you're moving a very good caliber center fielder to a corner outfield with a Gold Glover and Kiermaier in center field. Now your defense is a lot better in the outfield, and now you can probably keep Springer a hell of a lot more healthier, because I think the Blue Jays would have been a lot better if Springer wasn't out as much as he tended to be. I think he missed 30 games this year. That's the difference between a 90-win season and maybe a 95, 96-win season, and that could have been a whole new ballgame for the Blue Jays. Alan, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Steven, I don't think we need 2 bats. Even I believe the Mets are either going to get Nimmo or Benintendi. And if they do that, if they get Nimmo, they still need a big bat. They still need a legitimate, if not big power bat, somebody that is a run producer. That's what the Mets lack. That's why I brought up JD Martinez, because he, at his age, is still a run producer. He might not have the big power like he has, but it wasn't the power that was necessarily the issue for the Mets, even though I keep bringing that up. It was the run producers that was lacking, right? We got a ton of people on base, but the run scored was an issue. We couldn't drive them in. That was from late August until the rest of the year, and that's a huge problem. Well, Joe, yeah, Rule 5 draft is today, so maybe the Mets can find something. I wouldn't say they'll find an outfielder, but maybe they can find a good bullpen arm that maybe they don't have to sign and save a little bit of money there. What's going on? Something's going on. Hold on. What's going on? So there's some Bassett news, I believe. Hold on. All right, guys, hold on 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. I'm just looking at Street Stone because somebody just put in the chat. Oh, any news on Bassett? Excuse me. Rich, no, not yet. Not yet. I think Bassett's waiting for Rodon to get off the board, just to have that, that his market can start developing, because people that lose out on Rodon and possibly not in on Senga or lose out on Senga is probably going to be because I think a lot of people see Senga and Bassett on the same level, and Bassett is looking for 5 years. I think a lot of people are going to give him 4 years, but he's on the level money-wise for the most part with Senga. So I think people think if they lose out on Senga, they can get Bassett and vice versa. Yeah, Red Sox are in talks with Bogarts. Yeah, BX, he's not going to go 400 million again. If he has to sign, if he signs Senga or Bassett, they're going to be between 80 and 120 million dollars, right? So that's roughly $20 million a year. So they're already in the 310 range at that point. So 310 range. They still need to fill the hole in the outfield. Is that Nimmo or Benintendi? That's both going to be between 16 and 25 million dollars, somewhere around there. So now you're at the 325 to 330 mark, and you got to fill your bullpen up with at least 2 or 3 arms, which give or take is about 35 million dollars. So you're at 350. 400 is pushing it, but if the Mets are in on a Correa or another big bat that we don't hear of yet, then it can push it up to 360, 370. Maybe. I think the Mets are going to be signing. The next move you're going to hear for the Mets is probably going to be a starting pitcher. Well, fire blazing, there is. Again, I just said it. Fire blazing, I don't know that. We don't know that. We really don't. What if the Mets say, all right, if we're gonna give Nimmo $150 million, who let's be honest. If Nimmo might get Springer type of money, I think everybody can agree that's here right now that Springer is a better all-around ball player than Nimmo. So if Nimmo gets the same thing as Springer, which, again, the market says that it is, but if you compare the two players, it's not even close. Yet Nimmo is probably going to get just as much as Springer. If the Mets say like, whoa, hold on. If we're going to give $150 million to Nimmo, who is a good player, but is not going to be the bat that is going to help this lineup much more than Nimmo can actually do or what it already is, why not use that extra $50 to $70 million more to get Correa, who has been clutch in the playoffs, is a leader, who is very good friends with Justin Verlander, who knows Lindor because they're both from Puerto Rico. You can look at all of that and listen, the Mets are past that threshold already, the biggest tax threshold. They're already paying the penalty. So going over no matter what amount, the penalty is set in stone. So any option is on the table. If Cohen wants that guy, he's going to get him because the penalty is already, the money is out of Cohen's pocket already for the penalty. The draft, the draft slot is down 10 spots. The international money, bonus money, some of it is gone because of going over that tax. So at that point, there's nothing else to lose. So if he feels like they need that and the trades that they might be looking at is too high for their blood or too high to make, well, then you have to spend the money. And I don't think Cohen's going to not spend the money. I think Cohen would rather spend the money than give up prospects. Put it that way. Giovanni, why? We have Alvarez. That's just pointless to spend $90 million on Contreras when you got Alvarez. And you got Parada in the system as well. That doesn't make any sense. Stoney, what did he say? Because I have the TV on mute. I saw Buck Showalter, but I didn't hear it. Yeah, BX. It's not about a better center fielder. Again, look, you can find a better defensive center fielder than Nimmo. Kiermaier. You can put him in center field. He is way better. He's a gold glove center fielder, right? If you look at Benintendi, again, you're only focusing on center field. You can find a defensive center fielder and put him in center field and not worry about him defensively. You want to talk about Nimmo's offense? Fine. Sign Benintendi. He has better numbers besides power than Nimmo. But he does a lot more offensively than Nimmo. He steals bases, which is going to be a very big key this year, considering the fact that the rule with the pitchers can only throw over a certain amount of times, and the bases are bigger. So stolen bases are going to be a big change than what it was over the last 5 to 10 years, where stolen bases have drastically gone down. It's going to start increasing again because of those rules. So you could put Benintendi in left. You can put Kiermaier in center. Now your bench gets stronger with Canna on the bench. Canna one day can give Marte a day off, can give Benintendi a day off, can give Kiermaier a day off. He could play all three positions to give guys days off. Yeah, Raleigh, it is, but I don't know if you were here earlier, but Taijuan Walker, look, I like Taijuan Walker as a Met. The problem with Taijuan Walker is he gives up a ton of home runs even when he's pitching well. And I think you know better than anybody else, it's a bandbox at Citizens Bank. I don't think necessarily Walker is going to be as good as he was as a Met than as a Philly. Like, he'll be throwing a gem and then out of nowhere give up a 3-run homer. Like, he did that so many times with the Mets. Again, he'll have a lot of good games. You know, he'll throw 3 great starts in a row and then, you know, look like he's on the verge of pitching a 4th great game and then blow up in the 6th inning. And he gave up a lot of warning track balls at Citi Field. Those warning track balls are over the fence at Citizens Bank Park. So I think it's a good signing for the Phillies because clearly they need pitching. And I didn't think they were going to go the Rodon route, even though some Philly fans wanted Rodon. Not a bad signing. But for the 4 years, $72 million he gave him, that ballpark scares me with Taijuan Walker. Rich Beatty at third base, Escobar at DH. I don't think the Mets, they could do that. But I think the Mets have their eyes on Alvarez being the DH most times and then being a backup, catching about 2 times a week with Nito because I think McCann is going to be gone. So I think Escobar is going to be playing third base. Again, I'm the type of person that would let Escobar and Beatty fight it out for third base. Let Alvarez and Nito fight it out in spring training for catcher. Whoever wins the position, whoever has a better spring training, start them and let the other guys sit their ass on the bench. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get the best players on the field. And to pick and choose based on if you're paying this guy or you want this guy to be in that position to start the season, why make a choice when you can just let it play out and the best man win? Competition is not a bad thing. Justin, I like that. Yeah, Arias from Twins. I know. You see, you got to trade for him, and he's a really good utility player. Plays everywhere, but the problem is he's got control, team control, and it's going to cost you. And I don't think the Mets are going to go that route with a utility guy. But he's a very good player for sure. Won the batting title this year in the American League. I'm sorry, he had a better average than Judge that kept him from the Triple Crown. Well, they didn't lose him to free agency. I mean, they traded him. They didn't have to. But Drew, the offense is not the problem, and that's why they made that move for Hernandez. They traded Hernandez because of the fact that their offense is going to be fine. The Blue Jays' problem last year was bullpen, and the back end of the rotation started to struggle at the end of the year. Justin Turner, I don't think is an option. And Trey Mancini is not going to be an option anymore. Again, the Mets already told you internally, they're going internally with the DH options. That's about it. Joseph, the only thing that I could see the Giants doing now is probably making a run for Nimmo and probably looking at Correa. But there hasn't been much news as of late. But let me check. Let's see what's in the Twitter sphere. And yes, Yoshida, the Japanese left-hander that hits for average, not a lot of power, but a good player. He was posted today, and he has until January 20th to sign with a Major League Baseball team, or he goes back to Japan. Yeah, there's really not much going on. Again, it's lunchtime in California. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. All right. What's going on? Anything? I'm going to find out what time the Rule 5 draft is. 5 p.m. tonight. So 3 hours away. So it's the last big event before the winter meetings is over. Well, Caleb, I don't see why they wouldn't be. If they were in on Swanson before the whole Contreras sign-in, then I don't see why. Maybe they don't be as aggressive to sign Swanson because the Cubs and the Cardinals seem to be the favorites for Swanson. I don't know if they'll be as aggressive to sign Swanson. So the Blue Jays can trade for Reynolds. I don't know about their prospects. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I am an expert in the Blue Jays farm system. I don't know where their farm system is. I don't know where they're ranked. I don't know how many top prospects are they're willing to. I mean, at this point, if you got prospects, I mean, look at the Blue Jays team right now. I think you got your core that you need. And if you really were desperate for one of your prospects to come up, you would have brought him up. So if the Blue Jays have enough prospects, yeah, why not for Brian Reynolds? It's kind of solidifies your center field spot. Yeah, I can't stand Kenley Jansen. I think he's terrible. But the Boston Red Sox are trying, and I can't go wrong with that. They're looking like they're trying to re-sign Bogaerts, which I think is a cool thing. But as a Red Sox fan, last time I checked, the negotiations with Devers and the Red Sox haven't really been getting any better. And I think that's a big reason why Chaim Bloom is now looking at Bogaerts again, because Bogaerts is going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than Devers to sign. So I don't think that's a coincidence that, remember, yesterday it was reported that the D-backs are in deep talks with Xander Bogaerts. So my thinking of the Red Sox being heavily involved in talks with Bogaerts now is that negotiations with Devers is not going as well as I guess the Red Sox would like. And in my opinion, the Red Sox better re-sign Bogaerts or Devers, or there might be a riot on Yawkey Way, in my opinion. Jameson Taillon signed with the Cubs, buddy. Well, TD, yep, you were right, but I was right too, because I said the only way the Yankees are going to get Aaron Judge or keep Aaron Judge was if he took less money to go back to the Yankees. He took less money because the biggest offer on the table was the Padres at $400 million for 10 years. So he took less money to go back to the Yankees. And remember, the Yankees were at 8 years, $320. Hal Steinbrenner went back in there and Judge said, match the Giants offer, which was less than the Padres offer, and I'll come back. So he did take less money. So again, you can give credit to the Yankees, but let's be honest. It's not like the Yankees went above and beyond to get Aaron Judge. And let's be honest, they better do more, because even if you do get Rodon, what really is your lineup looking like? Because I think everybody can admit there's no way Judge is going to have another season like he did last year, home run wise. RBIs, maybe. Average, probably. But even if he hits 45 home runs, like I said earlier, that's 17 home runs less. That's 17 home runs that could have won a couple of games for the Yankees throughout the year. Well, where are you getting that other production from? That's something that I think Yankee fans should be worrying about. Again, when I started this stream, and I said it yesterday, I always give credit to a team that makes sure the guy they want, they do everything they can, no matter if it's money, speaking to them, or promising something. If they do everything they can to get the guy they want, I always going to give that team credit. I don't care if it's the Phillies, the Yankees, the Braves, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be a biased Mets fan because I don't want that to happen. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. And I gave credit to the Yankees as soon as I started this stream. A lot of people were here when that happened. I'm not one of those fans that are going to be, just being an idiot or trolling for no reason. Because the credit should be given to the Yankees. Because just because they weren't the biggest offer, they figured out a way to do it without going to that extreme level of what the Padres tried. So, but just think of it this way, and I said this earlier. Two guys now took less money to go to different teams or go to a team. Turner and Judge. Both of them were the Padres that offered the most money, and they both went to another team. The people that are going to be the people who are mad is the players union, because they don't like the fact that they took less money to go somewhere else. But again, that's why they're a free agent. They're allowed to pick, but the union tries to put a lot of pressure on them. And I can assure you, Turner and Judge got pressure before they actually made their final decision from the union. But sometimes your mind, your heart takes control, and you say, "F it, the hell with the union. They're not kicking me out of the union." So I think that's awesome by Judge. Again, I love players that stick with their teams. Like I missed that in the early, in the 80s and 90s when there was free agency and trades and stuff like that. But for the most part, your players that were your centerpieces stayed on a team. I love that. It means something. And as a Yankee fan, you should be happy at that aspect. But the work is not done. And if the Yankees get Rodon and don't do much else offensively, then I don't know how much better you're going to get, because everybody assumes the Orioles are going to be better. The Blue Jays, everybody assumes are going to be better. And you also got the Rays, who always find a way to win 90 games somehow and be a problem for the Yankees and other teams in the AL East. You got the Houston Astros, who are the champions, the champions in the American League. The Rangers are making moves, so they're going to be better. The Mariners are up and coming team that finally made the playoffs. They're getting better. And the Guardians are doing better as well. So, they got better. So, there's American League teams now that are starting to be a lot big, getting a lot better. And that's not the perfect scenario that you want as a Yankee fan, because now you're going to have teams that you were probably easily beaten last year that are going to be a lot tougher competition. Oh, they were ranked 20th. Wow. See, that's not like, well, again, I'm not shocked that their farm system is not great, considering the fact, look at all the young guys they brought up over the last couple of years, right? That is basically, all that farm system that's up now with them. So again, do they have enough? But again, it comes down to what Pittsburgh likes in a particular farm system. Well, TD, he might go off again, but if he doesn't go off, like off again can mean 45 home runs, 110 RBIs, and bat 300. That's the average when he stays healthy, right? 62 is an anomaly, right? But now he's got the burden of a contract now with that pressure. Now, yes, did he have pressure in a contract year? Yes. But I think even if he didn't hit 62 home runs and he hit 45 home runs, as long as he stayed healthy this year and didn't beat Maris's record, in my opinion, he would have still got the same amount of money. The home runs wasn't the difference between him getting a tremendous amount of money like he did and not get it. The only thing he had to do was stay healthy, because the Giants were still going to be in on him just as much as they were right now. It just so happens the Yankees fell on their face because they never in their right mind thought that Judge was going to put up those type of numbers. That's why they lowballed him in the beginning of the year with that offer. One, the injuries in his career, and two, they didn't think he was going to stay healthy for an entire year. That was the big concern. When Judge is healthy, he'll put up the numbers. The health was the issue. So Judge, even if he hit only 37 home runs, say if that's a low year home run wise for Judge. Say if he hit 337 home runs with 95 RBIs. You don't think the Giants would have still went above and beyond and still probably gave that same number? Of course they would. If they seen that he stayed healthy, that was the biggest concern with teams. I agree. Look, I don't care how long a contract is. I don't care how much money it is. Again, I know I'm like a broken record, but it's true. No fan should be bitching and moaning about a contract. If the team wants that player, then it doesn't matter what the cost is. Again, in the scenario with Nimmo, with the Mets, if the Mets believe that they need Nimmo no matter what, that's the guy they want to keep or want to get. And there is no way they're going to lose him. I'm not going to sit here and say, whoa, that contract's insanely bad. the only reason why I would say it's a bad signing by the Mets if they don't do more. Because I never fault a team for going all in on a player that they really want. No matter if it's a stupid contract or not, right? The Albert Pujols signing with the Angels many years ago, it was an outrageous contract. But the Angels made sure that Pujols was not going back to St. Louis. And they did it. And I don't fault the team for that. Does it always work out? No. We know there's a pretty good chance in 5 years that Judge contract is probably a disaster. But the same thing you could say for the Lindor contract by year 6, 7, and 8, right? You could say that with the Turner contract, with the Machado contract, with the Harper contract. You're going to – nobody is going to say if you get 5 great to all-star years for Aaron Judge out of the 9, you can't complain. Let's hope, as a Yankee fan, obviously you want a World Series in that situation. Like, do you think a Yankee fan's going to care about year 7, 8, and 9 if they win a World Series in the time frame that they have Judge in the next 9 years? No, they're not going to care. But they will care if he has great years over the next 4 to 5 years and they don't win a World Series, and then the remaining couple of years he's getting older, he's not the same player, and now that contract looks bad and you don't even have a World Series ring to show for it. That's when it gets fishy. And that goes for all teams. That goes for the Mets with Lindor. That goes for the Phillies with Turner and Harper. That goes for the Yankees with Judge. And if you could throw Stanton in there too. And that goes for every other team. That goes for the Padres as well. So that's how you got to look at it. If World Series come with those big contracts, who the hell cares about the later years of, at that moment, in what year is it? 2022. In 2030, if you got one World Series championship or maybe 2, you might complain at that moment that Judge is a shell of himself, but who knows what the Yankees are going to look like in 9 years or 8 years, right? They might have a lot of young talent, and Judge is they're just waiting for the contract to run out. You know what I'm saying? So it comes down to the fact that if those contracts end up helping you get one World Series, a couple of World Series, then it's worth it. And that's why I keep on saying it with a lot of Met fans. Stop worrying about the future when you have the opportunity to win now, which clearly the Mets want, right? You don't sign Verlander and Scherzer and worry about who's coming up in the next 3 to 4 years and how the prospects are going to turn out, right? If Alvarez and Beatty can help you out now, let's go. Let's not worry about 2024, 2025 when 2023 didn't even start yet. If you can win now, you do it. And you worry about those long-ass contracts later. All right.
Rob, we're here. You don't have to go down.
Okay. At least Lauren is the highest paid position player. Well, no. I mean, but he is New York Community. He is the top 4 because they put up a graphic this morning on MLB Network. And and he said and Lindor is still top 4 of the biggest contracts. So again, nobody is going to live up to the contract they get at those numbers in those years. It's not happening. But it'll feel a hell of a lot more better if that 9-year deal comes with 1 or 2 championships in those 9 years for the Yankees, right? It'll feel a lot better. But if you don't win nothing, that contract looks terrible at that moment, right? That's the problem. But no, Raleigh, we're not talking about it's a bad contract. What I'm saying is the fact that if all the contracts that the Phillies have given, this goes for the Yankees, the Padres, the Mets, everybody who gives long-term deals to these players. if it doesn't result in a world championship or multiple championships, when it gets later in the contract and they're a shell of themselves in year 7, 8, and 9, the contract is going to look a lot worse because the end result is a championship for every team and every player and every fan. If it doesn't come to that, well, damn, you went all in for these players and you didn't get the result that you wanted. Again, I don't care what the price is, how much it costs for a team to get a player, years, money, doesn't matter to me. If the team thinks that that's the player they want and they're going to do everything they can to get them, I never have a problem with it. Yeah, we can critique the deal and, talk about the pros and the cons of it, but at the end of the day, the team got the guy they wanted, and I never fault them. I don't fault the Rangers for going above and beyond for DeGrom. I don't fault the Mets for going after Verlander to replace DeGrom. I don't go after the Yankees for spending that much on Judge. But in the Yankee situation and currently the Mets situation, if you're going to give nearly $90 million per year to two starters that are up there in age, and you're not going to do enough to put a lineup that is worth putting out there, then what is the point of spending that type of money and not putting a team together that you can say, I can think this team can contend with anybody? That's the problem that I have. Well, Andrew, that might be a good wedding present, huh? Nice little $200 million contract. Russell Martin. Hey, pretty good damn baseball player. Yeah, I don't know if Met fans will complain, Moth. But again, I think you can agree that Senga is an unknown, right? He's an unknown. Nobody knows if Senga is going to be good at the major league level. We don't know that. We don't know how he is gonna come to the majors, pitch every 5th day, where in Japan he's pitching every 7th day, and we don't know how that's gonna translate. Is that going to take a few miles an hour off his fastball? Is his breaking balls not going to be as sharp because he's pitching every 5th day instead of every 7th day? Now, innings ain't the problem. They pitch a ton of innings in Japan. But when you get 7 days rest or 6 days rest and you pitch on the 7th day, well, guess what? We don't know. That's why can you be okay? Can you be excited about that Senga signing? Yes. But you can also be a little worried about that signing because it is the unknown. Listen, fans love the unknown. Just because we hear he does good things and we look at his stats and we seen him in the WBC, we're like, yeah, all right, that's what I'm talking about. But we don't know how he's going to be. Is he going to be Yu Darvish? Is he going to be Otani? Or is he going to be Hideki Arabu? Or is he going to be something like Hideo Nomo? We don't know. And that's why you can't get overly excited about Senga, because the unknown factor could go either way. He could be a complete disaster, or he can be great, or he can be in the middle where he's a Taijuan Walker type of pitcher. We don't know in the majors. We just don't know. Triple Crown. Let's do it, baby. Let's go. All right. Let's see. All right. So according to John Morosi on MLB Network, he says, keep an eye out on the Mets making some more moves today. Might be more than a couple of moves. Said keep an eye on Senga and Nimmo as well as another bat. Oh, I like that. That is music to my ears, baby. Music to my ears. And another tweet, momentum between Red Sox and Xander Bogaerts, according to a source. So there you go. So looks like Bogaerts is on the opportunity to actually get there. Good. But I do like that tweet from that information from John Morosi for sure. And let me read it once again for everybody just tuning in. On MLB Network just now, or about 10 minutes ago, John Morosi says to keep an eye out on the Mets making some more moves today. Might be more than a couple of moves. Also said keep an eye on Senga with the Mets and Nimmo as well as another bat. So again, if look, you get Senga, Nimmo, and a bat that is a legitimate bat who is a run producer, not necessarily a power bat, but a run producer who can actually drive in these runs. I'm very satisfied with this offseason, and that's not even including what we're going to do in the bullpen. Once again, the Mets are over that Steve Cohen tax threshold now. Penalties are what they are. They're not going to increase for what you do after that now. So as soon as you're $1 million over that third Steve Cohen tax, the penalties are the penalties, dropping down 10 spots in the draft, losing international bonus money, and pay a big penalty around $30 to $34 million. It's 90% on what you spend. So at that point, when you already know the penalties and they're not going to increase the penalties for as much as you go over, well, guess what? Now you're talking, if that's the case, if the Mets do get Nimmo, Senga, as well as another bat, you're already looking at Senga. They're already projecting him getting over $20 million. Nimmo looks like he's going to get between $20 and $25 million. So that's $50 million between two players for 1 year per year. So the Mets are just over with the Quintana deal a little. I think they're just under $300 million. So they're already at 350. If they get another bat, whoever that may be, is that another $20 million? What that person said earlier, yeah, they could actually reach $400 million on a payroll because they also still got to get a bullpen. It's possible. Crazy, but it's possible. Andrew, I don't think that's going to happen. The Mets are in on Senga, and if not, they're probably going to try to sign Bassett. They're nowhere near Corey Kluber. Where are they going to put Corey Kluber? Like, they already got pitching depth. They signed Bassett or Senga. They already got two guys, either Carrasco, Peterson, and McGill, fighting for one spot. And those other two guys are either going to be in the bullpen, one as a long man, or both as a long man, or both as a prominent spot in the bullpen. So we have the depth, and we only have one spot available if you sign Senga or Bassett. So I don't know. Yes, Twitter, buddy, Twitter. Oh, sorry, Carter. No, not on Twitter. He just said it on MLB Network. One of my friends, he tweeted that to me. He was watching MLB Network. I saw John Morosi on the screen, but I have it on mute because it would interfere with the microphone. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that was last night, right, Mothman, when Buck was on the Mets Hot Stove? Yesterday, yeah. So, Carter, John Morosi said that on MLB Network. He didn't tweet that. He said that on MLB Network not too long ago. All right, guys, just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. As I said, I was going to be a couple of minutes, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to put MLB Radio on right now because I think the TV interference is going to be a little annoying and might just make a lot of annoying news. All right, so right now they're talking to Trevor Williams on Power Alley MLB Network Radio. Again, Trevor Williams is an option for Mets to throw him back in the bullpen as well. No problem, Carter. So just listen up for a couple of minutes, guys. Let me just make sure you guys can hear it before anything.
Humans, but I think we need a dog room Yeah,
at the winter meetings, just
I like
so
that
everyone can
Alright.
just,
That's a great
hey,
idea.
Can you guys
go
hear
pet a
that?
dog for 15 minutes, go pet a dog, But when I'm the commissioner of baseball, that's what the first order of business.
All right, guys, I'll be right back.
Puppy party Monday morning.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's good. It's therapeutic for some of these GMs when they see the prices on the free agents right now. They go, well, I don't want to pay that. I'm going to go down and pet the dogs here for a little
Yes,
while and just
yes.
go that. What's it? Just as a guy who's in it and you're a free agent and watching from afar and seeing all this money being spent at what's your reaction?
Well, I got big news for you guys, and we can break it here first. Arson Judge for the Giants for 9 years.
Can you believe
On a
that?
fire date.
Right out of the gate.
No, look, it's fun. I'm thankfully in a much better position as a free agent now than I was a couple years ago. But it's all fun. It's part of it's part of this business, and I love seeing people talking with my agent and just trying to get a feel for where my market's at, where what teams view me as, and it's been fun. It's been stressful, but Christmas is around the corner, and I'd love to get Christmas gifts for my family. So hopefully something comes into fruition. But patience is a virtue, and we're gonna ride this out.
All right, so where is your market at?
Look,
what do teams think of you?
I'm not gonna kiss and tell, but I am flirting with a few teams. So that's where we're at right now. That's what I came down here to do, and hopefully, putting my face out there and having reminding people that I'm still here. I'm still around.
Starter, reliever, hybrid role, like what's been at least
You're so good
you're
at
not going to
both
talk
last year.
about
Thank
if you're not going to it's I don't blame you for not wanting to talk about the teams involved, but I am curious about the rules in there because as Jim said, you excelled at all of it in the biggest market.
Thanks. So look, I want to win. First and foremost, I want to win, and I think that's what everyone wants to do. It's interesting to see which teams value me as the hybrid role, which teams value me as a starter. There's different valuations for different markets. At this point of the offseason, some teams are going to put forth their foot into the starting market, into the relieving market, and we're kind of just playing the game right now. Like, I love starting. I loved what I did last year. I love doing what I did in New York. We had a really good team, and having Buck at the helm was